Welcome to my craft room. Well, as you can see, there's absolutely nothing unpacked, but I love my new space. I have way more windows and I have these little indentation. Let me show you. It's like little cubby areas where things can fit. So I'm really looking forward to setting this up when I get a chance. But as you might expect, that's not going to be for a while. We have to concentrate on the main areas of the house. Get those functional first. Bentley's down here clunking around on something. Tucker's taking boxes and stripping them down. So that's what our life is going to look like for just a little while. Here's a little around the world tour here of what's going on in this craft room. Here's that table that I use for cutting. That's the entry into the room. That's actually attic storage. And then that goes to the guest room back there. So I have a lot to do. Okay, I have a special guest with me today, my husband Tucker. Some of you know him. You have seen him before in different videos, right?
That's right.
And so we've been kind of bored with our task of unloading and putting everything up. And so I said, Tucker, sit down with me and let's try to explain this experience to everybody. And he agreed.
Very painful.
It's not painful. We've had a good experience overall. But first, let me do this little craft thing. I know most people that are watching me are crafters, and I want to alert you to the fact that myblueprint.com has free access right now. So you can access everything for the whole family. They have kid things. They have, of course, sewing, crochet, knitting, all that kind of stuff that we tend to like to do, art, whatever. But it's really fun right now, and it is free. So that's important. And I need to apologize for any missed comments. For some reason on that last video that I did, my last Georgia blog, I had a bajillion comments and I tried really hard to answer them as I always do, but there were too many. And of course, right in the middle of this move here to Texas, it was virtually impossible for me to get to all of them, but I'm still working on that. But if you see a little, I try to hit the like button or the heart button or whatever it is to let you know that I have read it and I appreciate your comment, but I just haven't been able to reply as I normally have. I hope you can hear. I've set up a little microphone right here and I think it's got both of us. So anyway, okay, first and foremost, let's tell Emily's story.
Emily is my niece. She's Down syndrome. She's 39 years old. And she got a sinus infection about 16, 17 days ago. Went to the doctor. They gave her some medicine. She didn't get better, so my brother took her to another clinic on Monday of that week, and she went on Saturday. Indicated she had pneumonia in her right lung and that she had influenza B. They put her on heavy-duty antibiotics to try to clear up the lung and the flu that she had contracted. That wasn't making any progress. Her fever was still over 100, 101. So the following Monday, a week after the first visit, they went back to the clinic. When they got there, she had 103 temperature and her oxygen levels were 50%.
50% is low.
Is way low. So the doctor immediately called for an ambulance and they took her to the hospital, put her in ICU. The worst part of all of this is my brother wasn't even allowed into the hospital. And as you can imagine, the heartache that he felt and how scared she was being alone by herself, not understanding why her dad couldn't be with her. So that has been a real tough thing for everybody to deal with. But they treated her for several days. Got the oxygen levels up into the 80s. They couldn't get it any higher. They got the fever under control. It was a low-grade fever. Eventually, on this past Saturday, they had to put her on a ventilator. You can only stay on a ventilator for 2 weeks. So we're seeing some progress. They've got her fever is now gone. Her white blood counts are down.
Chest X-ray.
Chest X-ray looks better every day. The white blood counts are back in line with where they should be. They've been doing CPAP breathing treatments 3 times a day to see if she's able to make some progress. They have cut the ventilator back twice now. And they are seeing slight progress, which is great news for us.
We're encouraged.
Yeah.
But she is by no means out of the woods.
No, she's still in critical condition.
And there's also the problem with the ventilator in that if you can get off of it, sometimes you didn't have to have a trach put in. And being special needs, I mean, this is extremely difficult to explain to her why her daddy can't be there, to explain to her what's happening to her body. So we've been very grateful that she's been under sedation with the ventilator so that she could just have an emotional reprieve.
Yeah.
Because it was very difficult. But she was handling it well.
She's handled it well. The doctors and the nurses have been incredible. They keep explaining to her. The doctor even FaceTimed on his own phone with my brother and kind of let him try to explain it. But, you know, they said she's a fighter. She's in good spirits and she's doing the best she can. It's just scary times for everybody. But thank you for your prayers. We need them. Continue to pray. We're just praying they can get her off the ventilator and she continues to improve.
So we'll keep you updated on that because that's a big deal to us. Now, as far as our move, we had a lot of great moving tips and some warnings, but this is not our first rodeo when it comes to moving. I think we figured out we moved about 11 or 12 times just since we've been married. Some longer distance, most of the time it's just around Madison, Mississippi, where we're from. But we know a thing or two about packing, but we were very fortunate this time. Well, actually, y'all scared me about having a shared truck and maybe not getting all our stuff off or whatever. We've never had a shared truck before. We have enough stuff to fill an entire moving van, but this time we had half a moving van?
No, we had about 3/4 of the moving van, but they segregated it completely with bars and everything, so there was no way to get the load mixed up, which helped on the unload because otherwise you would have had to check off everything that came off. But there was a complete delineation, so it worked out great for us. Everything in the front of the truck, first 3/4 of the truck was ours. Just a small piece in the back was somebody else's.
But we did have a few mishaps. Tucker's desk suffered greatly.
Yeah, my desk bit the dust.
But it's not a valuable piece or whatever. And I'll show you in a little while. My antique secretary made it here completely safely. It's wonderful, and it has the original glass in it and everything. But we have no place for it in this house. We can't find it. I think I'm going to stick it in the hallway. I'll show you later. But it will be okay. But I'm a little sad that there's not a nice place for it. But whatever.
But you can imagine the difficulties of trying to move in the environment that we're in and trying to stay distance from even the movers coming in.
But I will say the travel, several of you asked me about how the travel was because you have a travel in your future. First of all, Texas governor has recently closed all traffic from Atlanta and some other cities, states, Louisiana, different things like that. So we made it under the wire, and that's good. But I found the traffic to be light. We traveled 2 different days, and Thomas and I went on one day with the animals. But I thought the traffic was light, and we stopped only at truck stops because they were the ones that were open, so you could use the bathrooms, unlike fast food restaurants, which is what we normally do. And I thought they did great. They were polishing every surface with disinfectant. People were respectful, standing in line for the most part, keeping distances and stuff like that. So all in all, I'd say it was okay.
But as you travel, make sure you have gloves because you want to use gloves to fill up with gas, do everything, and then you throw those away before you get back in your car. I kept Clorox wipes in my car, and I wiped down the steering wheel, the shift gears, door handles, everything. You know, after every time of getting gas, even though I had gloves on. And then once I did that, then I used the, what's the gel? The
hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer, and I hand sanitized my hands again.
So in other words, we went the extra mile.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. And at this point in time, you never know where it's going to be. So make sure the inside of your car is clean. I even Cloroxed the handle on the outside.
Which is good.
But that's just fair warning. Just make sure you got Clorox and hand sanitizer, stay away from people. That's what I did, and seemed to work so far.
Okay, and then many of you warned me not to wear myself out.
She didn't listen.
I didn't know I was wearing myself out. Let's put it this way. I did fine until the day the movers got here, and then I think I was just excited. Here comes our stuff. Is everything going to be okay? And I was working as they brought it in. Tucker would be directing them, and I'm ripping those boxes open and getting things out here as soon as I could, and I did great. And then around 3 o'clock, I think it was, which is when I normally start petering out, my feet started to hurt. And I knew I needed to start slowing down, because if those of you who don't know, I have some joint issues and I could feel it coming. So I ended up going to bed at 6:30. I was in the bed, asleep, mind you, at 6:30, and I was exhausted. So I did not listen. However, it also kind of caught up with me yesterday. I couldn't do nearly as much as I want to. But today I feel great. So, here we go.
A little bit at a time.
That's exactly right. About my pets, you know that I was very worried about getting my pets here. The dog did fine, of course, and the kitties, I let them out of their carriers, and that made a huge difference. So they just kind of settled around in the car, and they were fine. And I jumped out real quick, and they were too petrified to go out of the car, so it was fine. And then when we got here, everybody was fine, and the house was quiet and empty, because Thomas and I had our blow-up beds, and that was it. And then the day the movers came, I had to lock them in a tiny bathroom upstairs, and they could hear thumping and bumping and voices they didn't recognize, so the kitties were pretty traumatized. I left Bentley out. He wandered around while the movers were here. It was fine. But then the next day, they acted like me. They were so worn out. They slept the entire day. They didn't even go out to eat. And now everybody seems fine, so that was good. Now, I'm going to mention some of you. This is sort of like an AMA, Ask Me Anything. All I'm doing, I didn't say that. I didn't invite you to do that, but I have some really good questions that have popped up throughout the comments on this, so I'm going to kind of address those. Normally, I take the time to edit and put your name, just a clip of the comment right there. I'm going to warn you that I'm not going to do that this time, because I don't have the editing time that I normally do. But Mary Williams asked about Maggie's wedding. Now, Maggie's wedding is at the end of June, and as far as we know right now, we're just not thinking about it. There could be a possibility that we would be postponing or canceling. They may end up, they're buying a house too, so maybe they'll just put that money towards something else. We don't know, so we're just not going there right now.
We've got 3 months. So.
And they have a really good attitude about it anyway, so we're okay there. Keep you posted. Eileen said, thanks for taking time out of your busy move. Safe travels. I was wondering what's next for Thomas. I forget that I haven't updated you on that at all. Thomas, who was very active in my videos way back, and as I mentioned in the last video, he graduated from high school last year, so he is not affected by all this stay-at-home homeschooling thing. He took a year off. He worked at Walmart from 4 in the morning to
1 in the afternoon.
1 in the afternoon in Georgia. And of course he stopped right now, and then he's going to the University of North Texas in the fall. And he says he wants to major in chemistry, which he did win the chemistry award at school. So he does have a passion for that. So we'll see. You know how kids are. They start out majoring in one thing and they could change, but that's his plan for now. And that's right here in Newton, so good for us. And I somehow or another, when I'm copying and pasting this information, I skipped the name. But somebody says that they've been in their house for 38 years, and they will have to get rid of a whole lot of things because they're not going to pay to move all that stuff. And I've talked about this before. She calls herself a pack rat, and Tucker thinks I'm a pack rat, but I don't know if I'm a pack rat per se as much as I have purposes for all the things I say because I might use them. It's not
10 years from now.
But it's not like I shove it out and not think about it again. I actually have a reason for saving these things. Well, my advice, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it to you again, start now. Even if you don't see a move in your future anytime soon, it's not on the calendar, start purging now, everybody. And the reason why this is so important to me is because not only that we just experienced this big move, but my good friend Suzanne had to clean out her parents' home, and she lived 4 hours away, I guess.
4 or 5 hours away, yeah.
4 or 5 hours away. So she would have to give up entire weekends to go home and sort through this stuff that meant much of which was just trash, because what they would do is just shove it in a corner and not think about it. When I say corner, I mean like the attic and the garage, and I mean just tons of things that were just unnecessary. This took her the better part of a year to go through and take care of all this stuff and get it for sale. So she keeps telling us, don't do that to your children. So think about it that way. I always try to look for motivation in different ways, because I'm not motivated to do that kind of thing at all. So think about motivation. I will do it for my children. May not do it for myself, but I will do it to protect them in the future. So look for your motivation. And he would throw everything away, and we would live in a tent, I think, if it would be okay for him. So he's happy that I have really purged a lot. How many loads do you think we took to the donation place?
Well, we had them come and pick up a whole truckload of furniture that we didn't give away. We gave a lot of furniture away to nephews. 2 different nephews came and got tables, chairs, washing machines, dryers, couches, things that didn't fit or weren't going to fit when we got here. We saw no sense in moving it. It is expensive to move. So they wanted it. They needed it. They came and got it.
But we also just gave away tons of carloads full of things.
Different things that were usable, but we didn't need anymore.
You know, books and that stuff that you just have for a long time.
Take your books at least by the library locally and see if they want them. They took most of the books we had. Some they didn't want, so I understood that. But I took those to Goodwill, so they didn't go in the garbage can, we hope.
No, we don't throw away much of anything. We always try to find another home for it. But if it was trash, and I've been on my soapbox about that, don't give your trash, things that are just not usable.
Trash away.
That's unkind, because when you're sending things to a donation place, you're technically giving gifts. So don't give people trash for gifts. That's horrible. Okay. Enough of that. Moving on. Kay Fisher says that she is deep cleaning her house. Not only is she learning Tunisian crochet, which I encouraged you last time, use this downtime. You're a captive in your house, so to speak. So use this time to learn something new. So she's learning Tunisian crochet, and then she says, along with that, I'm deep cleaning my house, working in phases. I already have 6 boxes ready to donate when charity reopens. May need to dedicate a room just to donations. Yay! So she's doing exactly what we say.
Use our time wisely.
Even if you don't have a move in your future, start now cleansing, decluttering. Kathleen Brown says, funny how we never realize how much stuff we own until we need to put it in boxes. That's true. We found that to be very true. Yeah. And then Jan Anderson said, welcome to Texas. She says that she hopes I find some great knitting friends here. And yes, actually in our neighborhood, we have a whole group. What do they call themselves? I forgot. It's a funny name.
They have a whole building here dedicated to crafts, different types of crafts, and they have meeting areas. And once everything reopens, it'll be fun.
Right, but right this very minute, nothing. There's nothing. Not even the golf course is open. Okay, another comment that I hear all the time, not just from that last video, but I hear this all the time. Your voice is so calming.
It is calming.
Do you think it is?
Yeah.
I think my voice is
a
annoying.
Very soft, light voice. You don't talk loud enough for us to hear you half the time.
Well, that's true. Because this is how it goes. I say something to Tucker, and he says,
"What?
Huh? What?" And then I have to yell. So that's probably not so
probably
calming.
my hearing, but
I don't know if the kids would agree that my voice is calming. Who knows? Mom's saying, "Pick that up." Who knows? But that's very sweet. And I think about, man, I should have started an ASMR channel. Those things get massive views. I could be financing this house if I had an ASMR channel.
I'm for that.
And Beatles fan Sonia was talking about the fact that she is alone right now during this separation time. And because her kids, she's got some kids on the front lines there really working hard. A daughter's working from home. But she said, thank goodness for cell phones. And you know, that is so good. I had friends, the night I went to bed at 6:30, I totally missed this, but my friends did a Zoom meeting where it's like a FaceTime with everybody. There was like 11 different people that were doing this. They were playing
Taboo.
And just they hung out for 2 hours, which is really fun. And I totally missed that, but we'll get together. But just seeing my son who lives in Los Angeles, being able to see his face on FaceTime is very reassuring. You know, it's wonderful. But do you remember when we had to pay for long distance?
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been horrible. Imagine if this had happened in, say, the 70s, where people couldn't really work from home.
Mid-80s even.
Or even the mid-80s. Just imagine people couldn't really work from home because there was no connectivity the way the technology is.
There was no computers.
Well, that's true. I mean, if you couldn't do it over the phone, it wouldn't have been possible. Right. So we're very fortunate that it hit at this point in time. And speaking of connectivity, the fact that our relationship here on YouTube hasn't changed at all. We still can check in with each other and write comments to one another. And Satu mentioned that. Satu is from Finland, and she sent the sweetest gift a while back. I haven't used that fancy yarn yet, as a matter of fact. I'll show it to you when I finally get it unpacked. And she sent us all kinds of information about Finland, because we Americans are horrible. We don't speak another language like everybody else in the rest of the world is just naturally taught to be fluent in another language. And me, I have about this much French that I could, spit out if I needed to. That doesn't count. But Satu helped us learn about Finland. Thomas got a big kick out of that because he loves geography. But she also has an excellent channel. She is a knitter extraordinaire, and I'll link it down below. But she speaks in Finnish. But you can see the projects that she does. So, wow. Oh, I forgot why I brought that up. But she said, I love that we can learn from each other even if we live on the other side of the world. That's true. That is exactly what we have now, a gift. Okay, in the last video, I brought up the fact that people don't behave the way they would in person when they're behind their keyboard. And I gave the example that if you went to someone's house for dinner, you wouldn't leave by saying, oh, that was just delicious, but you have some really ugly wallpaper. You just don't do that, but yet people don't have any problem saying something negative to you on the computer. But she said those persons that are negative must have envy or bitterness. I don't know if they're envying me or bitter toward me in any way, but within themselves, I think there's probably some reason that they need to show this power or
to vent.
Or to vent, yeah, possibly. Or it could be that I remind them of the mean girl from high school, or it could be that they have sadness in their lives and then they feel good by being hurtful, something like this. And I do know all this stuff or whatever, but it still doesn't make it acceptable. I think we all have issues. We all have things that we have to deal with. And there's no reason that anybody needs to flat out hurt someone on purpose. But anyway, Larissa, I think it's Larissa is how this is pronounced. She said, we don't need this in our world. Understanding and acceptance is so much better. We all have a part to play in these turbulent times. And I thought, oh, that is such a good image. If you were in a play, do you want to play the part of the mean person who brings unhappiness and strife and stress in the world? Of course not. Especially in a time like now, you want to play the part of someone who brings comfort and positivity and happiness and creativity and all the good things. So, I just don't even know what to say about that anymore. But thank you, Larissa. That was a great point.
Going around the boxes.
Okay. What were you going to say?
You read this comment
that
you found.
Unpacking boxes. In my medicine that I get for my Lyme disease, they always send helpful, inspiring quotes. And this one, I saved them because I like to go back and look at them. And this one says, although the world is full of suffering, it is full also of the overcoming of it. That's by Helen Keller. And that's true. It's like looking at the positive side of something really bad. Yeah, we see the suffering, but let's also celebrate the overcoming of it. So that's
So
really
many
good.
are recovering. And that's
They
the
are recovering, and there's probably going to be some really good things that come from what we're learning about being able to work from home and the homeschooling. I used to always wish that there was a way to, for example, high school seniors who are reviewing for a test and they got sick, maybe for an extended time. I was always thinking, gosh, isn't there a way that they could be a part of this technologically? And of course they could have probably
Sure.
the time that our kids were at school, but when I was teaching, it was like, oh, there's only a way that I could do this. And now there is. Okay, rapid fire.
Okay.
What do you love about the new house?
I love sitting on the back porch looking at the golf course.
That's right. My daddy was a golf pro, so living on the golf course is wonderful to us. But we can't see anybody playing right
No.
now, so we just look at it.
Still nice to look. We'll eventually get to play.
We get to see the workers,
Greenskeepers, right?
and the cats are absolutely enamored with watching all the little machines go by. They think that's great.
But they've opened up the trail, the cart paths on Saturday and Sunday that you can walk. So I'm going to do that Saturday for two things: exercise. One, for exercise. Two, to see the backyards of people and get some ideas of what we're going to do, extending our deck
Our
and
deck.
putting in a outdoor kitchen and different things. Just look at different
Yeah.
ideas from the cart path into the backyard. So
We just have a plain patio and we're going to extend it. And speaking of that, I know everybody's going to say, give me a tour of your house.
wait till we get it. Box is gone.
Well, in the past, I never have. And the reason why is because my family hated that. But now my daughter has a YouTube channel and Thomas never cared. And my son doesn't get to vote because he's all grown up and living in California. But we may or may not. I don't know. It's kind of weird just putting our home out there in public. But
You'll see different parts because she films
I've
from
always
different
done
places.
that.
So.
Right. I'll try to give you a different background and things like that. But you could imagine it might be kind of odd having your home out there. And I will throw this out there. We understand how incredibly fortunate that we are. When I say we've downsized, everything is relative, and we were in larger homes and we were very fortunate. So I understand that, this, like my craft room is huge and that's not normal downsizing, but it is from where we've been. So I think we did particularly well getting rid of a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And we see a couple of pieces here.
That we're
Maggie's
gonna
going
have
to,
to
Maggie
get
will
rid
probably take, she and Brian are in the process of buying a house because the plan was then as soon as they would get married, they'd move there instead of having to go into an apartment, and then begin the house hunting or whatever. But, I don't know. We'll see. Okay. You love looking at but what about the actual house? I'll say one. My oven shelves have rollers on them. And it is the exact same GE monogram set that we had in our home we built in Mississippi. That's the one I didn't want to leave. And that Atlanta stint was just a temporary thing. We just bought that house just to get in there for that 4-year time. But we left a home that we thought was our forever home.
Right.
We thought that was our dream home. And so when I said, oh yeah, let's get that same one that we had. Well, man, the upgraded version is awesome. So that's something I love. What
Yeah.
else?
I don't know. You have to give me some time to figure out. We got to get rid of boxes and unpacked first. Then I'll have a better feel. I don't really know.
I know another one. My washer and dryer are placed for the first time in the history of these washers and dryers where I open up the washer and open up the dryer and I can just go like this. The doors were always cattywampus
Backwards.
last time, so I was having to take out the washer, go around the dryer door and throw it in. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm so happy. And on the flip side, there's one thing that we don't like. What is it?
That's the master shower head, the master bath shower head. It doesn't put out enough water.
Yeah, you just stand like you're under a trickle. And it's a fancy schmancy
It's
one.
very
too.
fancy, but we're going to have to figure out
We're going to have to replace
how to work it, or we're going to
something.
replace it. So
has
it's not
all
going to
these-
work long term.
Yeah, you switch it and you can get all this massage and commotion and all that. And it has a handle that comes down so I can wash the dog. But
We need to read their directions too and try to figure out what we're doing wrong, because
I
there's
don't
got to be.
know. I think it's just supposed to be a gentle
And it's
type.
spread out too far.
Yeah, I was standing in it today and I noticed I could put my hands like this in certain places and they were not getting any water on them. It was spreading out like this and right here in the middle, but it's like, so you have to wash your hair like this, trying to get all the hair,
Yeah.
you know.
We'll make it work.
Well, thank you, special guest. I
You're welcome.
appreciate you appearing on my show today. Okay, let me leave you with this, and I thank you for hanging out. I'm sorry, I have to reshoot it. Here's Thomas.
Wow.
Here's Thomas with the action shot. This is what he does all day. So he's got his fancy schmancy computer, and he's beginning to make YouTube videos, so he has this fancy microphone, but until next time, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.